I came to testify about the Ethics Commission requesting us $1,000 to get outside counsel, and it's kind of embarrassing that we even have to do this. I apologize, but I thought that we made it quite clear at the circus that developed at the Ethics Commission that their investigation was nonsensical and had no legitimate basis. But what's become apparent is that they've been basically using the Ethics Commission as a venue to project a TMT media theme that has persisted, called the rule of law. And it's become pretty apparent because even the talking points that they used in their December discussion were identical to those that were used in the TMT supporters communities. But I'm testifying about this because I made a complaint that they were using what's known as a coin strategy on Mauna Kea, which is a strategic incapacitation strategy that is favored against indigenous people throughout America and Canada. And it's based on counterinsurgency tactics. And a large portion of that strategy is actually the media. That is the most dominant part of that strategy, is projecting media themes. And one of the repetitive themes in the counterinsurgency strategy manuals that are at FEMA with other police documents and in the libraries there has this repetitive theme of rule of law and projecting that. But it's actually it's a fallacy, because when you're talking about rule of law, the definition of that is restricting the arbitrary exercise of power, all right, and that government is held accountable to that same standard as the citizens, right? So inherently, when you're talking about rule of law, you're not talking about the public, you're talking about the government, all right? So we are able to govern and police societies effectively because we primarily have consent of the public. That's how 400 police officers can maintain order with 200,000 people. It's not the police that's doing it. So in the manuals for this, these strategies, the State Department specifically states, populations are controlled through a combination of consent and coercion, which is force. Now governments that have high legitimacy and are seen as trustworthy and have integrity have high consent of their public. And those that don't have to overly rely on force. So that's the core issue there, is legitimacy and trying to project that. But they're trying to flip it on its head and say that the Lahui is undermining the rule of law, but that's not what's happening, it's government. So in this manual, it even tells you the next step, which is to result to transitional justice mechanisms. In other words, to use the reconciliation process. So you can see this is a highly predictable template that's going on. But the central issue here is there hasn't been rule of law in Mauna Kea for 50 years because the state itself has been undermining, making a mockery of the rule of law. And that is culminated now in a lawsuit against the state, DNR, BLNR, UH, OHA, and DHHL, where they're trying to compel them to execute their duties according to law. And the lawsuit details an epic level of gaming the system for special interests. And it reads like a RICO investigation, really, when you look at it. The UH financial management is described as akin to a Ponzi scheme. So while trying to project this narrative about the Lahui undermining the rule of law, that's not what's happening here. It's the state, 50 years, pushing TMT on the back of this history has hit critical mass, and it's now the public and the Lahui that is trying to hold the government accountable to the rule of law. So pushing the TMT project is like push things to the tipping point, but it's the government that's done this, not the public. So I just wanted to clarify this fallacy that they're constantly projecting and using the Ethics Commission as a venue to promote this media thing. I think is a dangerous thing too, because earlier when they were doing it,
wrap up, please.
They were trying to foment public outrage and anger. So they're trying to manufacture consent to turn a blind eye to what was going to happen up there. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sorry for going over.
Yeah. Okay.